Now, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has resigned as an EFF Member of Parliament. This was revealed in a statement today in what the party termed as a voluntary resignations of Yazini Tetyana and Ndlozi as representatives of the EFF in Parliament. The party was rocked by high-profile exits following the 2024 national and provincial elections. It says the latest resignations were sent to the Secretary-General of the EFF consecutively and within days of each other. The EFF notes that it has accepted what it repeatedly describes as the respective voluntary requests from the pair to be released from deployment. Tetyana has served in the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature and Parliament, while Dr. Ndlozi served in the National Assembly since 2014. The EFF wishes them well in their future endeavours. To reflect on some of the changes in the EFF, we're joined now by political analyst Khanyi Magubane. Khanyi, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, after months of speculation about his political future, the People's Bay, as he's affectionately known, has stepped down as an MP after a slew of jabs from EFF leader Julius Malema. I suppose we saw this one coming.
Absolutely, Mpho. We did see it coming. In fact, we were just anticipating. It was a matter of when. It was no longer even a matter of if it's going to happen. And in the bigger scheme of things, you know, as the EFF starts to chart a new way forward, as it starts to go into its own new dawn, this is probably, I would say, the most sensible thing, you know, to happen right now. What's not clear is how voluntary this resignation from Parliament is. And as much as we may speculate until the good doctor himself puts out his own statement, we may then be able to gauge more clearly what, with some of the circumstances around his reasons to step down from Parliament, as well as Yazini Tetyana. And, you know, speculation is rife whether he will go to the MK, and I don't think he will at all. I don't think he'll go to the MK. I don't think he'll go to ANC, DA, IFP. I don't think he'll go to any of those
Why do you say
big
so?
parties. Well, because, you know, once bitten, twice shy, maybe. But more than anything, I think he wouldn't want to find himself back in a situation where he's trying to figure out where does he fit in, you know, because those are very well-established parties. And we've seen with the EFF itself what happens when people are brought in and they are parachuted to senior positions, having not been in the trenches of the growth of the party. We've seen, as you mentioned in your intro, several high-ranking members who were brought in and made members of Parliament. This is the one administration where the EFF has had a high turnaround of members of Parliament. You know, it's usually a stable party, but we've seen at least 4 or 5, you know, people leaving Parliament, and we're not clear who's going to replace them and what the long-term strategy is for the EFF.
So there was also the notion that Ndlozi was being ostracized. I mean, we saw this being fueled by a further report that he had been barred from attending the party's elective conference in December, during which Malema was re-elected unopposed. And when quizzed about Ndlozi's absence from the conference, he got a bit defensive about it. And that in itself, you know, what does it reflect, as we know that he hasn't left the EFF per se, but resigned as an MP?
Well, those were murky times, Paul. We didn't have clarity because on the one hand, we're hearing that relationships have soured between Ndlozi and Malema. We're hearing that he's been barred from attending the National People's Assembly. We're hearing that he's been ostracized. And what this points to is a political shift within the party where Malema is starting to align himself with what is now his new leadership, you know, with Goodrich Gadi there as his main 2IC now, a position that was formerly occupied by Floyd Shivambu. And so politically, I think, you know, Malema has grown and he knows the danger of having a split slate, you know, of having a slate that's not united, where others go with another one and, you know, others are for another one. That's, you know, a breeding ground for factions within a party. And so with Ndlozi there and not occupying any top 6 position, but at the same time having previously repeatedly occupied these positions within the executive, it did cause a type of an identity crisis for him. And that's why I'm saying that him leaving the party is probably, the best thing for him to do, to just re-establish himself. And funny enough, I would possibly see Ndlozi with a Musi Maimane with Busa, funny enough. If I'm thinking which political party he would most probably go to if he does return to politics, I think he could possibly go with Musi Maimane.
And for most of his tenure in Parliament, we know that Ndlozi was a fierce critic, relentlessly challenging both former President Jacob Zuma and current President Cyril Ramaphosa. What impact do you believe his absence will have on the EFF?
Well, I think we need to reflect on what his presence has meant for the EFF in Parliament. Ndlozi is a very articulate speaker. There's one video clip where Julius Malema is criticizing Mashaba for being a slow speaker. And he says, you need to be like Ndlozi, who knows how to make a point quick, sharp, and straight away. And those are some of the assets that they've lost as the EFF. Ndlozi also sat on the Security Council Committee. He sat on the Rules Committee within Parliament, and he also stood on point of correction many times, and he was thrown out of Parliament many times with the EFF. So he's been in the trenches with them. So it's not a small loss. It's definitely a big loss to the EFF. And I think that as he goes and charts his own way forward, for the most part, I think he does have the respect of his party members because he hasn't left the EFF.
Yes.
But I think he also, like you say, People's Bay, have the people's respect. He left quietly. There's no blood on the floor with him leaving the EFF. And I think this is what he wanted. He didn't want drama around his departure. And that's probably, the way that he structured it to happen is what we're seeing playing out now.
What about Yazini Tetyana, having served the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature and Parliament, in Parliament?
Well, he started in 2017 in the provincial legislature, and he subsequently went to the National Assembly. And Tetyana, he's been responsible for the organic growth of the EFF in the Eastern Cape, because that's one of the regions where they had to work very hard, to try and build a constituency there, because, the EFF was seen as a Limpopo party for many years, before it really started, pulling its footprint around the country. And so Tetyana kind of came in and gave the EFF a face in the province, and that's why he was eventually promoted to national, because like Ndlozi, he's been there, he's been with the EFF, he knows the party. So you've got two veteran leaders of the party leaving, and that is institutional knowledge that goes with them. So it's not a light loss, and I think that it's a calculated loss which Malema knows he needs to go through for him to get to the next level of the party.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening and helping us make sense of some of the latest news. There is political analyst Khanyi Magubane.